Well, let me welcome you to this another Sunday evening with the Marcia Weeks Show. I am your unexpected co host tonight with Marcia. She will be joining us, God willing, a little later in the evening. And we look forward to her and as many of the other panelists as we possibly can. As you know, today was that picnic down at Bath. For us to just relax and enjoy life, and have a good time. And so we just want to make sure that all things are coming through well. All right. So just to give me a little information that you're seeing me all right, you're hearing me okay. If you could just confirm that for me so that I can kick into the evening. I have quite a few things I want to talk about this evening, especially pertaining to the government's response with regards to Hurricane Beryl. And so, just waiting for you to confirm that you're hearing me all right, you're seeing me okay. I'm just monitoring my YouTube uh, monitor. I do have a monitor. And thank you, Maria. Great, wonderful. So I'm just checking in here now on YouTube. Okay, there it is. So we are live. Good to see all of you. And I want to say how much we appreciate the kind remarks that you all make with regards to our panelists and our team. We are working assiduously to try to bring truth, to try to bring transparency and accountability, to hold the government's feet to the fire. And this is not a position that we're going to adopt with regards to the Barbados Labour Party. This is a position we are going to adapt to government because governance in Barbados has simply got to change. This is not good enough. We're not satisfied. We've just seen a change of government in Great Britain. Where the Labour are now in and the Conservatives are out. Labour, I think, have 415 seats now or something along that nature. They have a massive majority. And they are committing themselves to much of what we have been talking about here on the Marcia Week show. So we want to say good evening to all of you joining us. I'll try to pick out a number of you and just thank you for being here with us tonight. Nigel Carrington, good evening to you as well. Yes, we are looking forward to a great show tonight. We are looking forward to Kimar joining us, possibly Glenn Murray joining us, possibly even Maxine McLean and Rose Corbin, the whole team coming together this evening. I understand they had a tremendous time. I unfortunately wasn't able to get down to the picnic today, and I think it's a good thing too, because well, here I am being able to start the show for her this evening, and what a tremendous privilege and honor that is for me. Heathcliff, it is good to see you too. And we are anticipating a great evening as well. Monica Ince, good evening to you and blessings. Nat Grant, Bage and Boy, good to have you with us again this evening. Erwin Nurse, Owen Hines, Skylar Watson, good evening, loyal opposition. Not about hey, seem to be the slogan of her these days, but that is the same thing that is our slogan. And as you said, nothing ain't changed the last time when she said not about hey. Okay, Cynthia Thorne, good evening to you as well. Good night, Sheolin. Sheolin. Jefferson Sobers, good evening to you as well. Mystic Angel, good to see you back again. Sir Alfred Benjamin, I am looking forward to one day meeting you, Sir Alfred. You've been so committed, so faithful, and I hope I can get in your side of the woods, your neck of the woods, to shake hands with you and to get to meet you. FX Trading, BB, good night to you as well. Blessings to you as well, David. Sandra Franklin, good evening to you as well. Yes, we are enjoying God's thundering and lightning, and so are our dogs, actually, though they're not very excited about it. All right. So, Maria, great to have you. I know you're going to keep me on my P's and Q's tonight. I'm watching the clock to make sure I start the show correct. And I know you're going to keep me on my P's and Q's to make sure that happens. Anthony Oliver, good night from New York City. Good to see you as well. Marilyn Brathwaite, good night to you. Judith Ann Clark and Marcy. Vernon Garns, good evening to the loyal opposition. James Ford, Thank you for confirming, James, that you're hearing us loud and clear. Beverly, I think you would mean Prescott. Am I right, Beverly? I hope so, because you have PER and not PRE. So I hope it's not. Well, let me call it as I see it, Prescott. Okay, just in case I am wrong on that. Emerson, Bab, great to see you as well. And from the United Kingdom, you've had some exciting days there, Emerson, with the elections, and you have a new government, a new prime minister, and I have watched him from time to time in the House of Parliament. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do over the next several years. I am not leaning one way or the other when it comes to the UK governance, but I've observed him over the last several years, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there. ADG, good night to you as well. Anthony Oliver, thank you for confirming. Pauline Maynard, good evening from Maryland. Wow, really good to have you all with us. The diaspora. Jacko Strawn, good night. Juliet Gittins. Now, I am not even going to try to pronounce this African name I'm seeing. I am lost. I don't want to chew it up, so I'm just going to say good night to you as well. Lemuel Tull, good night. Yes, I saw Lemuel the left also won in France today, but not with an overall majority. I saw that. I think it was Macron came second, and then the far right, I think, were third or something along that line. Yes, good evening, Romeo Hinkson. Good night to you, Janice Alexander, watching from New York. Well, God bless you all, and I'm going to start the evening off, as you know, is the right way. Marcy is going to keep my feet to the fire on this, so I don't want to get burnt. So let's begin with the right perspective this evening, the national anthem of Barbados, ladies and gentlemen. And as you know, my trademark is my pledge to my country, and I'm going to invite you to say that pledge with me when the national anthem is concluded. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we please stand to attention as we play the national anthem of the sovereign nation of Barbados? Amen, amen, amen. Hallelujah. That's the national anthem of my country. And now together, let us recite the national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my credit to do, and by my credit, boy, I tell you, my mind just went blank there for a minute. And by my credit, by my, what is it now? What is it? I'm totally blank. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag to defend and uphold their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. I'm sure that has happened to some of you, and it certainly has just happened to me. I just went blank for a moment there, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to come back and remember my national pledge. So thank you very much. It's happened once or twice. You just forget some things. Maybe I was momentarily distracted. I want to look quickly. Thank you. Forgive me, Ultra. I want to look at the first verse. In plenty and in time of need, when this fair land was young, our brave forefathers sowed the seed from which our pride is sprung. A pride that makes no wanton boast of what it has withstood, that binds our hearts from coast to coast, the pride of nationhood. Yes, Pedro, I don't think so. Whatever you do, whatever you do, Pedro, don't compare me with that gentleman, please. I beg you. Senior moment I will receive Marcia. I will receive that one. Oh, thank you all so much for the humor and for laughing even in the midst of a serious moment like that. But that line that says that binds our hearts from coast to coast. You see, that is what we are talking about on this show. Is our nationhood, nationalism. That is that is why I'm laughing, Eldra, because of what some people have put on the chat to me. Um, but thank you so very. Oh goodness, listen. They tell me that laughter is good medicine, so I don't know why you all are talking. What old age you talking about, Beijing boy? You kidding? You making fun? You know how young? Look, I am. Let me see. I am 20, 30 years old with 36 years of experience. So I am no old man. All right. So let's go. Let's correct. Oh, it's so good. It's so good to be able to laugh. I tell you, good medicine. They tell me you all got me. You all have me crying. You all have me crying and cracking up in this show. But we're gonna be. We yes, Errol. Oh dear me. But we're going to have. Uh, I am glad. I hope all of you are laughing. I hope so. All 373 of you. I hope you're laughing. Because it is contagious. But it's good for us to laugh now because in the show tonight there going to be some very very serious some very very serious moments, and I think Dave has joined me. No ma'am, I have not had a Biden moment. That he's in a class all by himself. He walks in that state. I don't. This has happened to me just this once. I mean, you all know that I've been on this show so often and you never seen that happen to me ever yet, but with him it happens all the time. Anyway, we can just leave. We can just leave him alone where that is concerned. You all seriously, you all. I'm trying to find my towel. Okay, good. You all seriously have me crying. Oh dear me, I love you guys. Really, I appreciate you so very. You all are real people, and that's probably what we need. We need some real people. We need some real people. Um, That's true, Errol. The young ones I'm finding, as a matter of fact, quite surprisingly, I am finding, I am finding that the young ones are forgetting sometimes even more than we older ones, and it treats to some deep concerns as it relates to the educational systems that we're utilizing. We had to try and memorize all of our two timetable, three timetables. You all remember the back of that exercise book that we used to have, where it had all of the arithmetic and things there in the alphabet and all that kind of stuff there. I wish I had one of them to hand now. But we had to exercise the brain. And I grew up in the day when you went into the shop. I don't know how many of y'all remember this. And the shopkeeper, you would buy a number of items. And I used to watch the shopkeeper just You write down the $27.16. And I just stood there, mate. I can't even add on a calculator at that speed. And they were so brilliant. And if you were to ask some young people today to try to add at that rate or to try to add things like that, they just simply could not get it done. If you asked me to do that now, I simply could not get it done. But I believe that what is happening with many of us in life today is that we're suffering from system overload. We're carrying a lot of things in our mind, things that we don't need to, some things we can't even do anything about. And maybe we need to offload some of that stuff. All right. So I want to thank you so much for the first 15 minutes of humor and laughter. And I don't mind if you laugh at me or with me. That's okay. That's fine. The important thing is that you laugh. All right. That's the important thing. So good night to you too, Joyanne, Faith, and Errol Calendar. Um, Anika Hope. And like I said, that African name that I saw back a few minutes ago, I'm not even going to try, but I welcome you, whoever you are. And I thank you so much for being with us this evening. And I know that Marcy is going to be joining me, and hopefully several of the others will be able to come in and join us for this evening. And we're looking forward to another great show, another informative show. And right at the start, I do want to address a matter now. We thank God for how He has brought us through last Sunday and Monday. I believe that as a country, we have a lot to be grateful to God for, to spare us the ravages of Hurricane Beryl that we saw last weekend. Passing, at first, it was destined. We were on track to be struck by it as it developed into Category 4. Now, I follow the National Hurricane Center, the NOAA. I also follow Tropical Tidbits. I shared these with you last time I was with you. And I also follow Mr. Weatherman and Weatherman Plus, two brilliant weather individuals. And what we did see is that it was on track to pass over Barbados. That's what the track showed at the time, and it was developing at a very rapid rate. Just off of us, it was Category 4, and we were all praying. I believe we were all praying, and we saw something begin to happen. I remember when the meteorological office issued one of their bulletins. It showed that it would now pass 26 miles south of Barbados. Then that increased, I think, to 45. That increased to around 60, and that increased again to, I think, 75 or something like that. And then it went to 80. And then, of course, it passed south of us, a very powerful Category 5 hurricane. And, we saw it line up Carriacou, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. And my God, my heart really, really went to. I prayed, I prayed, I prayed, I prayed. And, what was telling for me was the attitude when everything was finished, the attitude of those people in Carriacou when the cameras got in there, and I saw the smiles on their faces. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was incredible just to listen to them and to hear them, and to really, I just began to thank God. I had heard that there were about 8 deaths. I heard about 2 in Jamaica as well. But I began to thank God, because it could have been so much worse. When you know the makeup of Carriacou, when you know the makeup of St. Vincent, the makeup of Grenada, and I have been into the Cayman Islands just about a week or two after Hurricane Ivan. I saw the ravages of a Category 4 hurricane up front, firsthand. And I really began to very seriously intercede and pray for them. And so I really was very thankful that it was not worse. Now, they've lost everything, but then when I listened to the people, my heart was so blessed. My heart was so encouraged as I listened and I watched them and their attitudes. It was just unbelievable to see it. Now, having said that, we here in Barbados suffered significant damage to our fishing industry. And I want to get very serious for a moment, if you don't mind. Listen, let us be clear on government's responsibility. All right? I have said over and over that I will not give government credit for fixing roads, putting up street lights, and doing the things that you should do as the government. I will not give you credit for that. Why am I saying that? We don't give credit to parents for providing for their children. That's what they're supposed to do. That is not some special thing. If they go out of their way and they do something extraordinarily special, if it's, for example, a graduation or something of that nature, we do something exceptionally special for them, yes, we do that. But that is not the case in terms of government. What special have they done? Spent 25 million US dollars on the Kensington Oval to refurbish it when we are hard pressed to find the refurbishing aspects of $25 million. You spent $5 million at Oistins, and we are hard pressed to see where that $5 million has gone. You painted things red. I don't know why you painted the chairs and the benches out by Sky Mall, across the street from Sky Mall, red. What are you trying to do? What psychological games are you trying to play? Let's stop this foolishness. This is nonsense. Let's stop it and do what you should be doing. And you will not get any gratitude from the people of Barbados for performing your duty and your job. And I'm very, very serious about it. As a parent, my children do not thank me for providing for them. They expect me to provide for them. My grandchildren expect me to provide for them. They're not going to give me kudos because I provide them with shelter and food and clothing and transport. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm supposed to do. Government is supposed to look after the people of the country. That's your job. That is what you are supposed to do. If you're to build a new geriatric hospital, that's your job. You're not going to get kudos from me for doing that. That's what a parent does, is to build a home and make it habitable for the family. That's where your job, Madam Minister, Mr. Minister. That's what you're supposed to do. So don't expect kudos coming from me for doing your job. But let me get to a matter that I want to discuss briefly in the few minutes that I have. I read an article in the Barbados today concerning comments made by a one Kemar Harris, chairman of the Fisheries Advisory Committee, who was reported to have said that in response to the opposition leader Ralph Thorne and other critics who suggested more could be done, he said that not much could have been done due to the lack of equipment to haul up more than 200 fishing vessels. Well, Mr. Harris, right there is a problem. You have just expressed it. You have just expressed it. Our Prime Minister has been globe-trotting talking about climate change. She has been globe-trotting talking about the resilience of our area in the Caribbean to devastating hurricanes and storms, etc. We have a Department of Emergency that would have been aware, because I was aware since last year from what the NOA and other meteorologists were telling us, that this year was going to be one of the worst years recorded in history for hurricanes. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be buying into that, because as a believer, as a Christian, I believe there are things that I have the capacity to engage to bring some change to that. But nevertheless, we were warned. We were told since last year, since last hurricane season ended, El Nino and El Nino and all these different names they have, we were aware of this. And you mean to tell me that Mr. Harris has the audacity to tell the Barbados today that nothing more could have been done due to lack of equipment? It would mean that you faltered in your responsibility to provide the necessary equipment, which I am told offers were made to provide the adequate equipment to address the matter, and it was turned down or it was not taken up. I am not going to necessarily stick out on that. But Mr. Harris should know better than to come talking nonsense about, act of God. And don't blame God for the lapse in the conduct and function of a government. God has nothing to do with that. If you know we are going to have an increased hurricane season, then you should have put all the plans in place, all of the necessary procedures in place, that in the event you are faced with any kind of storm or category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hurricane, you would be in a position to ensure you can treat to the needs of the country. And the government did not do so for the fishing industry. So, Mr. Harris, please don't talk foolishness. at the meetings as far back as January, February, March. You should have been having meetings of the emergency and disaster organizations around this country, knowing that the hurricane season starts within 6 months of the beginning of the year. You knew that. You knew you didn't have the equipment. Instead of wasting money on a sawgrass or seaweed machine sitting down rotting in one or two of the areas, instead of spending the $5 million on oysters, you should have spent the $5 million months ago in providing for these fishermen. So don't come now telling me a lot of nonsense. Last year, we had an issue where we could not get the boats hauled out quickly. We were able to identify down by Baiko, and these were areas he is admitting we identified. We were not able to get all the boats out in time because we do not have the amount of equipment. I was wondering, this guy for serious? This guy is obviously a Barbados Labour Party supporter, clearly to me. And because he is giving silly excuses for the incompetence of a government when it comes to their proper planning. Everybody knows that you have to plan. Hurricane season comes around every year. Every year, the fishing industry is with us every year. You should have known what equipment you needed, and you should have known to get that equipment so that you could have got the boats, and you should have known where they could go. You should have the equipment where you can load them onto a trolley or whatever it is and take them. You should even have possibly built a covering facility that could withstand hurricane winds or something. You could have done something. Don't tell me that this is no act of God. This is an act of incompetence by a government that has not understood what it means to plan properly. Let's get this clear. You know, I look, because I don't have time to play politics when people's livelihood and business and their families, their houses, their food and all of this are at risk. Mr. Harris should be embarrassed to be putting this foolishness out in the media. What about the people who today cannot go fishing? Their boats are destroyed. They still have light bills to pay. They still have water bills to pay. They still have phone bills to pay. They still have children to put food on the table for. They still have mortgages to pay. My friend, don't come talking foolishness to the people of Barbados for the incompetence of a government that has failed to properly plan. And if they're listening to this, I don't care if it's the Prime Minister or who is listening. She knows me. She can pick up the phone and call me anytime, and I will tell her exactly the same thing. You did not plan. If you want me to come and plan for you, I will come and plan for you. But I will not be planning for the Barbados Labour Party. I will be planning for the government and the people of Barbados. The nation is my concern. I have no interest in party politics. I don't have time for that. People are suffering in this country. Blaming climate change and talking about acts of God, rubbish. If you know there are climate change, then make the necessary adjustments to ensure that your country is safe. You talk to people about hurricane preparedness. You talk to people about hurricane preparedness, getting hurricane straps, putting away things around their house, and then the fishermen can't get their boats up out the water. What foolishness are we talking about? I mean, come on, man. Come on, Mr. Harris. Come with a better response than that nonsense. You cannot put boats any and everywhere. Well, the sea told you straight. You can't put it where you put it because we just done destroy a whole set of them for you. So the sea has told you. And anybody, I believe it was I think Nigel Newton or one of our panelists made the point that based on the movement of the hurricane, we should have known how the storm surge would have affected this country and where it would have been safe to have put our vessels. So let's talk nonsense. You know, I get disgusted and I get upset. And pardon me, you know, you might think that as a ordained minister, I shouldn't get upset. Well, my Heavenly Father gets upset. So I expect me to get upset. And let me tell you, it's better for me to get upset than for God to get upset. Because when God gets mad, a lot of people pay the price. When I get upset, it's only you all that got to put up with hearing me shouting and blasting in your ears. And I apologize for any of that and discomfort I cause you by doing so. But Mr. Harris, please stop making cock and bull excuses for the government's incompetence. That is an insult to the people of Barbados. If you knew that, if you want to talk about climate change, that climate change is responsible for everything. No, but the same people who are talking about climate change going buying houses by the beach. And I can just leave it at that. Selling off all of our beach property. Why are you selling off all of our beachland property if it's all this thing about climate change? You know, we have to be careful, because you see, that's why they want to introduce the cybercrime bill, to stop us getting information and sharing information among ourselves without their consent and knowledge. And we just came through 3 years of government propaganda, misinformation, false information, and disinformation from governments and mainstream media. And I no longer want to hear anything from partisan positions. I don't care about them. I have no interest in the Barbados Labour Party. I have no interest in the Democratic Labour Party or the APP. Even if I was to run for one of them, I am interested in my country. And that's why I will run. And I will tell you this, if I find myself being led by the Lord to run in the next general election, whenever it is called, I'm going to do it. And I make you this solemn commitment. Remember that solemn promise that was made? I'm going to make you one tonight. That if I come into a position where I can investigate the previous administrations and their incompetence and their corruption, I am going to pursue it with every breath of my body and ensure we lock some of them up, because a lot of these people in the Caribbean need to be locked up and put into jail for what they're doing with the people in their countries. They're receiving a lot of support, a lot of finances, and we ain't seeing a cent getting through to the people at the bottom of the ladder. But the people at the top of the ladder are getting all the kudos and getting all the wealth and getting all the development. You see people building this here and building that there, and giving the little corn throws, like we're chickens and fowls, throwing a little corn here for you to eat. No, our government is supposed to look after the wealth development of all of its citizens. That is what a government is supposed to be. And I'm being very serious with you. If I ever come into the position, watch my forehead. You see that frown? If I ever come into a position to be able to investigate any of this current government administration or any of them that went before, and I'm telling you straight, if I ever come into the position where I am going to be afforded that opportunity, I'm going to pursue it with every bone in my body and breath in my body, and ensure that many of them get locked up, because this is what has to happen for people in the Caribbean and for politicians in the Caribbean to understand that you are not a law unto yourself. There's not one set of laws for the Medes and another set of laws for the Persians. If you are involved in corruption, gun running, trafficking, and anything, you are going to go to jail. And I am telling you now, if it comes within the power of Ferdinand Nichols to be able to lock you up, I am going to ensure that you spend time at Dodds, and a long time at Dodds, because of what you are doing and what you have done to the people of Barbados. So, Mr. Harris, I recommend to you to stop playing party politics. I don't mind people engaging politics, but stop playing party politics and deal with the issues that Barbadians are having to face. Your fellow fishermen are sucking salt today because they cannot get their boats out to go and make a living. Are you going to pay their mortgage? Are you going to pay their electric bill? Certainly God ain't doing it. Let me tell you that right now. God isn't doing it. If anything, you should be lucky that God deviated. And I believe it is God. People can believe it is anything else. I believe it is God that deviated that hurricane to our south, because I'll tell you, I don't care how much people talk. This country cannot take a blow from a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane. Let's face facts. We can't. We can't, folk. And I tell you, today, I don't care what is your position, where you believe, whether you believe in a God or not, or what you believe. All I can tell you is pray, 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 pray here, because the last thing you want to happen when you look at our neighbors, when you look at what happened in Grenadines, St.Vincent, Carriacou, Jamaica, Cayman in 2004, when you look at what's happening in the United States of America and realize what missed us, you had better be thankful to Almighty God. You had better be very, very thankful. All right, so let's stop playing games. And like I said, government, that's your job. That's your job. I'm not giving you credit for the roads that were done. They weren't done for the people of Barbados. They were done for World Cup 2024. And I don't care what you tell the people of Barbados. That's why they were done, because you had money to have started that process ever since. You didn't have to wait until now, and you had people who invested in equipment to do so, and you didn't engage it. No, you kept waiting. so that you could appear to do something grandiose and impress the rest of the world. The people of Barbados are not impressed. And incidentally, Marcia, when Marcia comes on, I have to tell her, they sent a copy of a letter to me that they sent to you. And I will tell you, they don't have the intestinal fortitude to come on this show and face us. Not one of them ain't got the intestinal fortitude to do that. But listen, my time has expired where I can share. I wanted to just share those moments with you concerning the comments Mr. Harris made. And I'm not saying anything in support of Mr. Thorne, although Mr. Thorne is correct in his assessment. I am sharing what should have been the position of the Barbados government without anybody having to say anything. Your disaster management group should have met. You should have put all the mechanisms in place. If you needed equipment, you should have bought it instead of spending unnecessary funding to refurbish the stadium that did not need to be refurbished in order to host the World Cup 2024. That is what you should have done. And I end my tirade, if you want to call it that. But you know what? I am going to share a little secret with you all. My little secret is that I see somebody in the waiting room, right? And I know they are waving all kinds of hands at me, and I know that you are going to be anticipating them coming in soon, but I'm not going to tell you who that is. I'm going to leave you trying to figure out who that is. All right. So let's just be looking forward to a great show tonight. And just one other thing, if I can touch on with you tonight. Mr. Thorne addressed the matter of the bail for murderers that were loose in Barbados. He made the comment that there were people who had committed as many as 3 murders that were out on bail. He referenced, I think it was 1996 or something like that, where the legislation was changed to facilitate that. And from what I understand, he was talking about the fact that if that had to be reinstated, one would have to go back to Parliament and make the appropriate amendments to the legislation. And I found it so amusing that the very next day in a press conference, the Prime Minister of Barbados comes to address the matter. Well, ma'am, you have to be more proactive than that if you are a leader. You see, there's a big difference between a manager and a leader. I was told a manager is the person who, when he has a group of people or a team, he comes into the forest with the team if they're cutting down trees, and he assigns the task to the different people to cut the trees down. And I'm told the leader is the person who climbs the tree and tells you if you are in the right forest. That's the difference between a manager and a leader. I don't know, and I want to be very respectful. I respect the office. I respect the office of the Prime Minister. And it is unfortunate that one is only respected because of the office and not because of who they are. That respect has got to be earned. And I respect the office of the Prime Minister. If I have to speak with the Prime Minister, I will afford the Prime Minister all of the respect her office carries. When that office is over, my respect is over. And I will agitate passionately and firmly for the well-being of the people of my country. This is my country, Barbados, and that song springs to my mind. That I can't remember. I think he's now passed away. That Calypsonian used to sing about my country, Barbados. This is my country. This is the place where my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren will have to live a long time after I am gone. And my responsibility now is to ensure that when I leave this earth, I leave a country that is going to be acceptable for my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Right now, Barbados is faced with astronomical debt. That when we are dead and gone, our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to be faced with the challenge of how to fix and how to repay this debt. And it just seems that every day our debt is increasing in one way or the other. when I listened to what was borrowed for Kensington and recognized that the government admitted that we are still paying for the expenses of World Cup 2007, now we compound it with World Cup 2024, right? We could have taken the position of one or two other countries and said no, but we embraced it. And from what I understand, many of the little people did not benefit from it one iota. Many of them did not. That's what I understand. I have listened on the ground. I have walked among those people on Broad Street. I have listened to the calls that people have made to me who were telling me that they don't have the money to get a credit card machine or a debit card machine from the banks that you have to pay for so that you can have people run a credit card or debit card, because not a lot of tourists travel with cash, they travel with cards, and Barbadians are increasingly traveling with cards. I remember one day a beggar accosted me in one of the car parks, and I turned to him and I said, "You got a card machine?" I was being funny, and I told him, I said, "Boy, you're gonna have to get a card machine from the bank, because these days people don't travel with a lot of cash. I certainly don't. I have a card. If you have a card machine, I can run the card and give you a couple of dollars." But that is what some of our people are, those persons on the bottom end of the scale of income, so to speak. Thank you, Emerson, Mark, Lord, that's right, who sang "My Country" to me. And Mark I used to enjoy his singing. Mark had a lovely voice, lovely, lovely tenor voice. And I've spoken to people who were around Kensington and inside of Kensington. You see, these people seem to think that the only folk that they talked is government ministers and Barbados Labour Party supporters, but they talk with people. They talk with ministers, they talk with pastors, they talk with reverends, they talk with family. We know, we know you can't hide those things from us. You can't. We have all of these, and thank you, Jabard. We have all these young men being shot and killed in our country, and we don't hear the government saying a word. These are serious matters, and I am not. I'll tell you, I am going to support. I heard the leader of the opposition in his press conference last week refer to establishing a commission with regards to crime and violence, I believe it was, and they'll be going around the country to hear from Barbadians to how we can resolve the matter, how we can deal with the matter. And I am going to say this: I want to be a part of that commission. I want to be a part of that. I want to go out there and I want to hear what the people. And when I say I want to be a part of it, I don't simply mean being on the panel. I want to know where that commission is going to be, and I want to attend those because I want to hear what Barbadians are saying. And I am hoping that they do not necessarily make it a constituency matter, but that they make it a people of Barbados matter, it is in their constituencies. And I hope they can make the differentiation so that people who support the Barbados Labour Party can come and talk, who are no longer supporters, and they have a lot of people like that. And the people who support the Democratic Labour Party can come and talk. The people who support the APP can come and talk. And the people who don't support no party can come and talk. The one thing I will say to you as a nation is that one of the things I believe that we are witnessing is a rebirth of the Democratic Labour Party. This is what I am observing. We are observing a phoenix rising from the ashes. This is what, and if it is a prophetic word I'm giving it to you, then I am not sure. I'm not sure, ADG. I thought I had heard that he had passed away. If he hasn't, then please forgive me. But I thought I had heard that. I could be wrong because I have been traveling in and out of Barbados for the last 19 years at one heck of a rate. And it just appears to me that every time I go to come back, some other very well-known person passes away. So maybe somebody can check on that for me and just confirm. I would appreciate that, because if he isn't, I hope he's still writing music, and I hope we hear his voice again. All right. So and I want us to really begin to take these things serious, because I'm seeing that. I'm seeing a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm hearing young people that are coming forth now, speaking on the behalf of their own groupings, their own youth, their own millennial groupings, where they are finding difficulty. I speak with my children. They are My children are just trying to keep it together, and they're fighting to try to develop something that will ensure investment for them in the future. And while they're doing that, they're fighting and struggling with putting food on their table, paying their bills. These are the things that our children are dealing with, folk. And how can you sit down? How can you sit down? Thank you, Tyrone is telling me Jamaica did not host any games. And I was surprised, because as some who are, and just put that up, uh, some who are a few course at UWI Cricket, Jamaica was the maker of cricket, not Barbados, as Barbados and the PM want us to believe. So, these are things that I believe we need to start engaging. We need to start paying attention, because I respect the Democratic Labour Party, because it is one of the oldest institutions in our country, and we have to respect it as we respect the Barbados Labour Party. But the Prime Minister, our previous Prime Minister, noted that the Barbados Labour Party that he knew is not the Barbados Labour Party that he saw before he passed away. Well, I am certainly going to take a breather here, because one lovely lady has joined us that I'm sure you all prefer see her than you see me, because all of those beautiful colors that you're wearing, Marcia. the- and the thing is, I can't even put on a necklace, because then everybody goes, I go on the other side. But there, it's so pretty, lovely, good to see you. And maybe you can give us a report during the evening on what transpired at Bath, which I am so sorry
Oh my!
I could not have got to.
Well, thank you for that
Welcome, welcome.
thank you for that wonderful welcome. Um, you know, um, it's always a pleasure to be here. I was at Bath this evening, and it was. Before I tell you about the evening, I have to tell you this: that at about five, like minutes to six, I was sitting at a table with some wonderful women of the loyal opposition,
Opposition.
and we were chatting, and someone passed and said to me, "Oh, do we have show tonight? The Marcy Week show is on tonight." And I said, "Yes, it's on. Dr. Ferdinand is going to start, because I'm going to make sure, we're going to stay down here with everybody and so on." And there was a woman sitting across from me, and she said, "What? The Marcy Week show is on? But what time is it? It's almost time." And she was going to pack up. She was getting ready to pack up to leave me sitting there to make sure that she
Ah,
gets to come to the Marcy Week show. That was hilarious. I
oh my.
looking at her stunned, and because she was like, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. And she was dead. It's almost like I was not sitting there, and she was, and trust me, she left early because she said she's not going to miss the Marcy Week show. But let me tell you, it was all smiles today. It was
Wow.
beautiful. The wind was beautiful.
Yes,
The
yes,
food, the colors, the camaraderie, the spirit. It was the Barbadian spirit, I tell you, and the people. It was, it's one thing, Dr. Ferdinand, to see, we come on here and people have their pseudonyms, Speak the Truth
yes,
and Hurricane Writer and Born Again, and there you get to meet people. You got a chance to actually meet people face to face and one on one. And I thought
yes,
that it was just so beautiful, get a hug on people, and to see exactly who they are. And there are people that we would have seen at the marches. I know they were in a relaxed setting, dressed up,
yes,
a little freer, and they had their meals, and they had their full spread, and oh, we just had a lovely time. Dominoes, family members playing against each other. Kimar was a busy serving there. That's Kimar. And we want to thank Dave Weeks and Kimar. This idea was Dave's idea. And I said to him, I said, Dave, as great as this is, I am tired. Somebody else is going to have to put it all together. And so he started, and Kimar joined him. And they worked together. Kimar had the idea of getting the bus, and we worked together. Dave and Kimar really were the ones behind this, and did an amazing job. And the lovely lady with her, I think it's her granddaughter that she brought, or grandniece. So people brought their family. Some people, entire families came. There was a couple who was actually celebrating her. I think it's 17 years. If you're watching me tonight, a happy anniversary
Yes,
to you.
yes.
Yes. And it was wonderful to see everybody there, and
Beautiful.
just to connect. It was so
Ah,
peaceful. Look at a little
yes.
baby there, the cutest.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Well,
and
I'm so sorry I couldn't get down there, but I guess somebody has to be sacrificed.
yeah,
Oh my
yes.
goodness.
And we saw the spring. We went to a spring.
Yes,
There's a
yes,
spring there, and
yes.
a lot of people had never seen it, and they were just amazed. I mean, this water is just flowing freely, and it was indeed a beautiful experience, and one that I would love to have again, very very soon. It was nice. It was very nice, and people are saying here. Oh, somebody asked me if the festival gone. So I made some festivals in the Jamaica.
Yes, I watch you making it this morning.
Yes, and listen, by the time I got
Ah,
there, people were asking, "Where's the festival?" I literally had to put away the festival so that
ah.
others who were coming and ration it one per person, because everybody wanted these festivals. But it was lovely. And this man you see there, can we go back to that picture? That is this man here. You know, he got very ill, and I'm sure that you heard me talk about him. He fell from a ladder. He was working, and he fell from a ladder and he hurt himself. Oswald Newton, and he was very very ill, and in the hospital for a long time. And I was seeing him for the first time today in the blue hat
Wow,
there, Mr.
wow.
Oswald Newton, and I'm so it was happy. I was really, really happy that I got to see him. And, we just had beautiful people there today. And everybody, we were just having a good time and get to actually see people and not just connect virtually.
Yes,
And it
yes,
wasn't a
yes.
march, and it wasn't a roadside parliament. Of course, they were talking issues at each table and playing dominoes. But and when the evening came, people went down to the water, and just it was good to see families together. And we miss you, Dr. Ferdinand.
Oh, well, I missed you guys as well. I tell you, we had our own challenges because we have several of our family traveling, some traveling tomorrow. My daughter had a busy day with her two, well, three of the four grandchildren. So it was quite a busy afternoon for me. But I was happy to have been available at least to get the show going, because
Yes.
I sat and wondered, had I been there, what would have happened? You would have to be, we would have been under so much pressure to get back and start everything.
Yes.
And there's a saying that one of my prayer colleagues says, and she says, God is a setup God. And so he knew what was going to happen. So he set things up so that the show could start and everything could flow well. So I'm happy to have been here to make that possible. I'm the sacrificial lamb. Okay.
Well, you did a fabulous job while I was
Praise
getting
God.
ready, and you were all charged up. And I see a comment here from who is it that's saying it is they were said good fiery opening and delivery, Dr. Ferdy. And that was great job, Pastor Ferdy. You
Thank you
sparked the
so
fire.
much.
Great start to the night. Yes, so
Yes,
you had
yes.
to be here to get that job done. well,
Well,
back to
thank you
you.
so much for putting your trust in me to get it done. I appreciate that so much.
Always, always, always.
Yes.
Somebody here saying they would like their festival and Aki and Salford. Well, you have to come to the next one. The next one. And Miss McLean, I hope she can provide the Aki. Oops, that's a lot of Aki, Miss McLean, for everybody. She's in the she's there carrying laughs. Miss McLean.
Yes, there she is. There she is. Welcome,
Miss McLean,
Maxine.
I know you
Oh,
can't
good to
supply
have you.
Aki for all these people. I don't think.
Uh,
I would travel around Barbados and find some trees.
or
Uh,
you'd have to get Marcia to import some for that occasion.
there are a lot of
Yeah,
trees around Barbados, you know. So what I would tell
Really?
people
Wow.
is if they look for the trees, pick them when they're open. There's a secret, Marcy. If when I'm picking them and one falls and it's full and isn't open, I just put it on the counter. If it opens by itself, I use it. If it doesn't, you throw it out.
yeah,
But there are a lot of trees around, so just if you're not sure, tell Marcy or myself, and we will give you instructions where to pick them. And
yes,
if you don't know how to
yes,
prepare them,
yes,
I will prepare them and hand them over to Marcy to cook them. I
yes,
can cook
yes.
them too.
And I will make myself available to sample all of them.
Yes.
Yes.
And let me tell you, that rain came
Uh,
down at just at the right time. When we
Okay.
were
Yes,
ready to
yes.
leave, then the rain came down. But we had a lovely time. Victor enjoyed the Victor Lewis, he called ahead and listen, I had to take out two of the festivals because he said, I saw you making a festival online. Can you leave some for me? I had to give it to Dave, wrap it in a piece of foil, and tell him put it up for me in the car. So when Mr. Lewis came, you see, I taking care of you, Mr. Lewis. You got your festival, but it was empty. Dave made a wicked sweet bread as well, and that was
What?
fun.
There you go,
Listen,
Maxine.
listen,
Sorry.
listen. Can I implore you not to talk about? I have not eaten yet. I have
Well,
to. I
well,
Uh,
well,
like Pastor
um,
Ferdinand. I was the
you know, it
sacrificial lamb.
it
I
was
had two
beautiful.
meetings.
It was beautiful. Kevon, who normally does the water, and I have to big him up. He brought two coolers with drinks and
Wow,
water
wow.
and ice. And
sweet.
he even left money to say, if you don't have enough ice, go and buy some more ice if it runs out.
Wow.
And he drove
Wow.
he
Wow.
was
What a
at work in
family.
St. Lucie, and he drove from St. Lucie and brought everything up. And people gave donations on the bus. I mean, it's just a wonderful family. I see Rose there as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
It was
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.
a wonderful family time that
Nice.
we
Yes.
had, honestly. And when they were leaving for the bus, I almost felt like I was missing everybody when they were going on the bus, like they were leaving Barbados. But it was really good, and I thank Dave and Kimar for taking this thing on their shoulder and making it happen. They did a great job, and they need an applause for that. I told them, I told Dave we need to do it every 3 months or something because we work so hard.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes.
family,
Yes.
we work very hard, and so it's good when we can come together and see everybody. And there's nothing like that unity that brings the strength and gives that
Yes.
encouragement, for what we do. A lot of people are asking for the general told me that he would have joined tonight. He was resting, and I'm not seeing him. I don't know if anybody heard from him. But we're hoping that Caswell will be able to join us tonight. If not, I'm sure he's going to send us a message to let us know. But I know he needed some rest, and so he was
Yes.
taking some rest. Well, back to you, Dr. Ferdinand. I don't know who
Well,
you have lined up for when.
Well, just before I proceed into anything, Marcia, we do have, according to the meteorological office, we do have a flash flood watch in effect for Barbados at the moment. We are being affected by a tropical wave, which is expected to proceed through the night with some isolated thunderstorms and showers. So if you hear that, that's what's happening. It's no storm or hurricane or anything. It's just a tropical wave that's passing Barbados at the moment, and that's where we're getting all of this rain from. Well, we when I started this evening, Marcy, I started with a response to an article I read in the Barbados Today by Mr. Harris, who was, I believe, chastising the leader of the opposition in terms of the damage and what had happened with the fishing industry. And suggesting that nothing better could have been done. I took that to task really because that's not satisfactory where I'm concerned. And of course, we also wanted to take a look at the response to Mr. Thorne's press conference by the Prime Minister, who also held a press conference covering a number of areas, which I have not had the chance to listen to completely, but I'm sure several of you have. And we're looking forward to addressing and dealing with that. But I was really I found it very disingenuous that the suggestion is given, that I know as an insurance company, people always tend to blame God for natural disasters. You always hear of this thing, an act of God. But I believe that what we saw happen to our fishing industry last weekend, well, actually Monday, just Monday gone, was a result of incompetent planning and proper planning and adequate planning, looking down the road to see what has happened, especially when you consider we have a leader of a country that is always talking about climate changes. So maybe I don't know if you were able to hear much of what I shared, Maxine. I don't know if you and Rose were on early enough to hear that, but maybe
Yeah,
we
I
can
heard.
you
I,
feel
I heard. I heard.
you
I was able to listen from the beginning.
great.
Mm.
So I don't know if any of you would like to comment maybe within the context of that, or maybe you'd like to raise the matters to do with the Prime Minister's press conference, and for that matter, the Leader of the Opposition's press conference, which I thought was a very good one, very informative. And what I found interesting coming out of that press conference with the Leader of the Opposition was the proposed commission on crime and violence that he's proposing to do around the country, where I think we need to be hearing from our people as to what is happening, what do they think, what do they suggest. And of course, I'm hearing that echoed. I found it very interesting. I'm hearing that echoed by the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I listened to his introductory remarks today to the people, and I started to listen to his first press conference, I believe, and I found it interesting some of the similarities that he was expressing. So, Marcia, I'm going to turn it over to you. I am the thorn in the midst of all the roses that are here. I hope Kimar comes along and helps add another thorn, and I hope Kazu comes along and helps. But I'm certainly in some wonderful company tonight, and very educated, very informed people. I listened to the show, Marcia. My goodness, how do you find these people? It's amazing the persons that you're able to bring to help educate and inform the people of Barbados. And I think on behalf of the loyal opposition, we want to thank you for doing that search, and locating those people that can add value to what we know in Barbados and maybe how we can proceed forward as a country. So I am going to, not disappear. I'm going to just step back a little bit and hear from you and from Maxine, and of course from Rose. Always an education to be in the midst of you.
All right. Maybe. And let me welcome Rose and Marcia. You do look rested, so you have to do it.
I tell
Do it
you,
again
I
soon.
tell you.
Let me
Thank
quickly
you.
comment about the whole situation of the damage done to the fisheries industry. And I'll just ask a couple questions, and then one of the questions I want to ask is where do we go from here? Because I think I heard part of the comment of, I think it was the gentleman that you referred to, Pastor Ferdinand,
Yeah.
who mentioned, that there was nothing else you can do. And I would ask some basic questions. What happened in the past in terms of preparation and action after, we recognize that something had to be done, um, and what was the role of the fisheries department? What has changed? I mean, these are the things that we can ask, because yes, I would say that there's shared responsibility, but at the end of the day, there are instructions given of boat owner cannot just go anywhere. They also have to get permission. So at the end of the day, as far as I can see, because I've been around for some time, and I've seen several hurricane seasons. There are questions that can be asked because things have not been quite the same. And at the end of the day, I know there was a program today. I was only able to listen to part of it because I had to join a meeting online, um, and I didn't get to hear anymore. But what that program was, it brought together a number of stakeholders, and the question that I would ask the government, because I think that having had questions put on the table, and I'm not going to spend time speaking about the press conferences because others, we want to hear from Rose and so on. But having heard from the leader of the opposition, I think the Prime Minister quickly sought to respond to some of those issues. I have not heard all that has been said, so the questions that I'm going to put on the table, though, and some of the suggestions may very well have been taken into consideration, and if they have not, they need to be, as far as I'm concerned. The Prime Minister has spoken about allocating some funds. She received a contribution from some entity. But really and truly, from what we have seen, given the price ranges of fishing boats from small to large ice boats, as they're called, a significant amount of money will be needed to resuscitate the sector. And so the question I would ask is, where do we go from here? And I'm going to put a couple quick suggestions, not necessarily fully amplified in detail. But first of all, another question is, do we have any idea what is the fishing fleet of Barbados? So in essence, what has to happen? And I believe that boats are normally registered. And so which government agency should have a list of boats plying the waters is something that information should be available. So in essence, what you want now is an inventorying of the fishing fleet in terms of damage, destruction, those that are in working condition, because we have to ask ourselves, how do we resuscitate the sector? So that's in terms of the boats themselves. Now, a lot of the fisherfolk, well, essentially, I believe a lot of them are self-employed. Some people may work for boat owners and so on, but they may be working as contracted individuals, and rather than employees, they may be working as, let me say, a contract for services as opposed to a contract of service. So we need to verify how many of the boat owners and other players in the sector, the processing, people doing the processing, fish sellers, and so on, are registered self-employed persons, and how many may actually employ staff. In other words, what benefits can they anticipate if they're paying the national insurance and so on, because it is critical that these people get some financial support. And then in terms of the actual resuscitating, having done your inventory and so on, the question is, what is the schedule for repairing the vessels? Because I would expect that people will want to get back out. Those who can will want to get back out to sea as soon as is possible. And what is the strategy for repairing vessels, based on that level of damage, the mix of ownership, etc. And the big question, of course, is the whole business of financing repairs, on the one hand, and then the actual need for probably constructing new boats, etc. And the question would be, what are the preferences of boat owners? Are there any new approaches that we can use to getting the fisher folk back into business? And that is at the level of the boats, because without the boats, the other things, there's no fish to be processed, etc. So I think that there are several questions, let me put it there, that need to be asked and answered in a very structured and systematic way if we are to find a way to get this whole process, the whole sector back in some kind of shape. I heard somebody mention, probably one of the stakeholders, that it can take a year. Now, the other thing, I'll say this and pause because it'd be good to get some reaction to what I said. We know that for the most part, from my observation at least, this is an industry in which there are a lot of individual players. And in some instances, there are people who own larger boats, and they either, I don't know if they lease them out or they pay people to operate those boats. Um, because of the extent of damage, is there any way that we can find a cooperative spirit among our fisher folk where people can perhaps um, either take on board some other people? So in other words, find a way in which people, when the boats go, that they can accommodate others so that there's some kind of earning taking place. And of course, I believe strongly that as we look to, so in other words, if I let me give a quick illustration. If I had a boat, and I usually sailed it with myself and one other person, or I sailed it by myself, can I probably say, look, this is the cost of taking this boat out. Can we split it and split the proceeds so that instead of me just being the one earner, one of my colleagues, a good friend, a business, somebody in the sector can also have some opportunity to earn. But I also believe that the financial services sector, and of course, some of these people belong to credit unions, can and should look at ways in which they can perhaps provide some kind of financing, whether it is for the construction of new boats. But I think that given its importance, because at the end of the day, if there's no business, these institutions are going to find that they don't have the business of this sector, of the people in this sector. So we need to find creative ways to get the stakeholders back into business. So I'll pause there because I don't know if any of what I said makes sense to anybody. So a reaction to some of that would be useful, because as I said, I haven't heard what people have put on the table in that program. For example, there might have been about 10 people um, who would have been on brass tacks there, for example, from boat owners to the minister responsible to um, fish processors or spokesperson from Bar Nufo, etc.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
mhm.
but you know, Ms. McLean, thank you for that. And here on the Marcy Week Show, we're always pushing the conversation ahead. It
Mhm.
has occurred, and here we're saying, where do we go from here? And I think those suggestions are a great one, especially the last one. They're all great, but I really love the last one where you're talking about the idea of a cooperative and to see how, the possibility of that. Because I know the strength of cooperatives and how, I know, like the farmers, they have various cooperatives among themselves. I don't know if they have it in fishing. It would be interesting to take a look at that. But let me just hear from Mrs. Corbin. Rose, it's so great to have you. We didn't have you on Friday because we had those two Africans on, and on Friday, and but we didn't have you on Friday. So I'm very eager to hear what you have to say. I know you have a comment about the fishing industry, so if you want to start there and then just segue into the other areas, it's a pleasure to have you, ma'am.
Thank you, Marcia. Good eve to everybody. Hello, Maxine. And I am so sorry that we didn't make it to the event today, but I explained to you, Marcy, in our chat, why I couldn't. And then this evening too, I had to prepare dinner to take to someone and all that rain. Luckily, it held up until we returned. So, but I was enviously checking all the photos that were dropped in and looking at the food and all of the above. And hopefully when you have it next weekend, that next weekend that we would be there too. And it's good to always be part of this forum. And Maxine, I really am pleased to hear how you took the lead on coming up with suggestions, the way forward in terms of responding and the fisher folk responding to the situation and to the needs too, because we know that we depend on the fishing industry, and we love our fish, and we do need to see that they get back up and get back up as soon as possible. And thank you, Maxine, for the suggestions. And I would like to laud you and laud us, because on social media, I would have read persons talking about why should that we're complaining, and Barbados has too many complainers. Read the late notice of the water surface being disconnected or halted. And why should we complain? And I started to even so about the fishing, what happened with the fishing boats and the fishermen that we're complaining and attributing blame. And it caused me to wonder, when should we speak or not speak? There seems to be a trend here in our beloved country that if you speak out about a matter that has gone awry, that um, is not working, that it should not have happened, we are blamed for politicizing, for opposing, for the sake of opposing and for complaining. I see that as an attempt to subdue or to prevent us from making our observations as a people. And I'm not saying us here on the Martyr Week show shouldn't we speak out? Shouldn't we say that it should not have happened this way? Shouldn't we say that what happened should not have happened? And this was, I found it disconcerting that people are saying that we are complaining. So, Maxine, I thank you that the suggestions you made are not those of complaining. You have identified, and we all have here in this forum, identified areas that went wrong, and we have offered suggestions to correct and rectify. And the leader of the opposition expressed it eloquently when he said that some matters are political matters, to paraphrase, and that there are times when one has to speak to matters on that politically affect us. We have a government, and they have been given a strong mandate, and I believe that they need to put systems in place that not after the fact, but before the fact. but be more proactive. And I'm not a technical person, but I wondered if the government had responded more, had responded, let's say, I can't qualify it as more, had responded to that proposal that the leader of opposition had put forward back then in terms of providing equipment for the hauling up of the boats, if the story would not have been different. And it took me further. I am wondering again if even amongst the members of parliament, if there isn't a degree of partiality as opposed to a national response. So if you are not in the cabinet, if you don't hold a ministry, if you are not seen as a favorite, we are not responding to you. We are not responding to your constituents' need. And that is not governance for me. We have not just voted for an individuals, we voted for a government, in my view, who should respond nationally as opposed to taking that individual approach to responses. And therefore, what happened to that proposal that Mr. Thorne put forward way back then as soon after he became MP for that constituent, see that particular area that concerned the fisher folk. And it would not have only been for oysters, but it would have been for the other fisher folk sector and areas. My concern also too is this whole thing of politicizing. I noticed that the minister responsible for culture in the prime minister's office was the person who spoke out on the in the early days, on the soon after the impact of the hurricane on the fishing stock and on the fisher folk and on that sector, who came out to speak, but the minister of culture. Someone should advise me if she has been given the portfolio also of the blue economy, because I have not heard the minister responsible for the blue economy speaking out. But here comes the minister of culture speaking out again on the matters of the blue economy, on the matters related to the fish folk, and in my opinion, again, politicizing it because she sought to refute statements made about the flooding that occurred at Oysins. The she tried to again um, what's the word, speak of the money spent at Austin was well spent, um, and we know that it isn't really so. But again, it was politicizing. Again, the chairman of that committee up there came out and tried to what's the word, try to make us believe that that $5 million um, were or thereabouts were well spent. So these are the things that caused me some concern. And I'm going to stop here, but I do like your suggestions. We are not hearing suggestions. I am concerned also that funds that may be made available, will there be equity in its distribution? How will it be allocated? Again, will it be politicized where we do know if you don't support us, go to the back of the line? That I am asking. We are still recovering from Elsa. And how long ago was Elsa? There are persons whose houses have still remain to be repaired after Elsa. And I don't believe that the houses would have cost as much as now the amount of money needed to repair the fishing boats. So these are just my concern, but I want to let those who think that all we do is to complain. We don't. We try, we point out things that need to be attended to, and we make suggestions on how they can be treated. And one other suggestion, I don't know if you had heard, Maxine. My concern was that at the last count, there were about 460 persons in the shelter. And I was saying that there should be some system in place where a database can be created to find out how many of these persons are homeless who sought shelter, how many of these persons, their houses are unstable, need to be fixed, a database that we can reduce those numbers if it means making repairs to the roof, stabilizing the foundation, um, attending to the, flooding and flood prone areas and drainage. It isn't just bundle up, go to the hurricane shelter and wait it out for the next couple of hours until the storm passes by. You know that song, Pastor Ferdy, you've sung it. Until the storm passes over, until the thunder cease to roll, and you can, ah, but
Oh, yes.
one of the things I'm concerned that will it repeat? What are they doing? 460 persons, are 460 persons too much? And we need to attend to that situation too. My concern is that at the hurricane shelters, do you have adequate supply of water for these persons? At the hurricane shelter, what systems are in place? Should it go beyond that one night, that 24 hours? You follow what I'm saying? And we need I take no consolation in responding after the fact. And my last soundbite here, and I'll shut up, is that it took the leader of the opposition to speak on the conditions for bail, and looking at the law, the legislation, to attend to that, to see how it would minimize the kind of crime that we are seeing now for our brilliant, intelligent, creative thinking, original thought coming from our prime minister, who appeared as if eureka, this is original. We are not complaining. We're just pointing out the things that concern us and come with responses. Thank you, my dear colleagues, and what an opportunity to share and learn from each other. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you.
Yes, thank you,
Thanks a lot,
Mr.
Ron.
Corbin. And again, you made mention of the minister responsible for the blue economy, which I don't even want to even use those terms because I'm just tired of all these new names of things, and it's just I'm tired. I even I have tried not to even use it anymore because it's just been named for us. But he is Minister Adrian Ford, as far as what I'm understanding. My question is, I didn't have a chance to listen when we were down at Bath today. Was he also do you know, Dr. Ferdinand, if he was on Starcom today? Was he on
Yeah,
Bath Stars today?
he was on, but I didn't hear what he said.
I was okay. Thank you, Mr. McLean. Dr. Ferdinand, did you hear him? Were
No,
you?
I myself did not hear either. Unfortunately, I was so involved with everything that was happening here in our home. I didn't get a chance
Okay.
to listen into it. Yes.
Right. Okay. But Ms. McLean said that he was on. So it would be interesting to so he's saying something. So he was on to
I did
hear what he has to say.
I did see a comment earlier, Marcia, where someone was saying that they were fundamentally blaming climate change for everything. It's all as a result of climate change. But my question is, if you know that we are going to be facing climatic changes of significant proportions, should not your planning take into consideration all those components, especially since you have been, as it were, the voice of the world on climate change?
Mhm.
Should you not have in your own home country made the appropriate preparations? I mean, Rose is talking about 400 and some people out of this hurricane, but have the ones who were affected out of Elsa added to those? If you follow what I'm saying, so I would want to believe, and it would be interesting, Marcia, Maxine, Rose, to hear from the people in the disaster management offices. It would be really interesting to hear what they actually have to say, because to this point I don't recall hearing any of them. I don't know if I'm incorrect in that. I heard the prime minister, I heard one or two other ministers speak, but I heard nobody speaking from disaster management. I heard nobody speaking from the meteorological office apart from what I saw on Facebook. I didn't hear anybody addressing the country who had the expertise and knowledge of what we have had to face and what could you remember. Was it Nigel Newton, I believe, Marcia, on one of the earlier shows, I think it was on Monday night, treated to the what you call it, the wave motion, storm surge. He
Okay.
treated to the storm surge that we would have experienced. And the point he made was that anybody who has any experience in terms of the weather should have known that with the storm shifting to our south, that the northern circumvent of the winds would have churned up a storm surge that would have affected our southern coast and so forth. And so these are some of the questions I believe that need to be very seriously answered with regards to the expertise you're supposed to have in your facility dealing with these matters.
Yes. Miss McLean, any other comment on our fishing industry before we move on to something else? Um, someone is asking the question here. Well, and we can always we can if someone has a comment on this, they can make it. Does Barbados need to borrow? This is speak the truth. More money again to fix the fishing industry. I'm curious. Now, just before we jump in, I wanted Miss McLean to respond. What I want to say is that I noted something Miss McLean said earlier, and she said that when she heard how much was this grant or this money that was given to the fishing industry from an international source. And when you compare it to the number of boats reported that are damaged or have, are just destroyed, I think you were questioning whether that was enough to cover the kind of expenses and so on. I don't know if you have a comment here based on what's
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
I would say, first of all, that is one initial donation contribution. And that cannot, I mean, it was like, I think it was 500,000. The thing about it is,
What's $500,000?
huh?
I think it's about a $500,000.
$1 million. Now, one gentleman had 3 boats, which are valued about $500,000 each of them, because those ice boats, as we call them, those that go out for a couple of weeks and so on. Now, my position is this: the industry, if we do not invest in the resuscitation, what do we do with the whole range of people along the value chain? The men who bring in the boat owners, the fishermen who go out there and catch the fish, the people who bring them in and clean them and so on, the processors, the people who do not have the fish to serve on the menu, and therefore take somewhere like oyster, for example. That impacts on operation or down Spikestone or on the West Coast, etc. So my point is, in this in the same way under COVID, and I will use this as an example, government would have made, I think it was $300 million available to the tourism sector, to the players in the tourism sector. Look, and that's why I talked about inventory and the boats, etc. Look and see what it will cost us to get the industry back into some semblance of, back into operation on whatever scale is possible in the short term. And because at the end of the day, national insurance, if there's unemployment benefits, that will last for so long and no longer. At the end of the day, when you add up the total assistance, and if they can't get if they're not qualified for national insurance, they got to go to national assistance for welfare benefits. I mean, we can start to quantify that. So those are the things we have to look at. In relation to speak this truth question about, does Barbados need to borrow money again to fix the fishing industry? We have a financial services sector. So I don't know that we have to, I mean, if you get, I mean, this is a case if we look at it from the perspective of our international relations and our multilateral relations as part of the UN system. And we have gone out there for many years, and certainly under one of the last meetings attended by Prime Minister Motley, they were able to agree on loss and damage. Now, this is where it will be put to the test, because countries have pledged money. Now, this is a case perhaps for arguing for, for the region to get some benefits under any loss and damage arrangement. Pledges were made, but has money been put to be made available? So that is in terms of that. But I'm saying that if you had to borrow money, and if government was looking, they don't have to go overseas and borrow it, but they can guarantee arrangements, because first of all, you look to see to what extent insurance is available to those who are insured, the extent to which the insurance payout will allow for the repair or rebuilding, repurchase, the acquisition of a new boat, etc. The other thing that I want to say, Marcia, within the context now of the fishing industry within CARICOM, I remember sitting with members of Barnufo and reminding them, as much as we talk about the issues, and I heard Mr. Robert Morris, when he was ambassador to CARICOM, and some CARICOM countries make the point that under the CSME, there's something called free rights of establishment. If I want to go to Tobago now and set up a fish processing operation, I can do that on the rights of establishment. But I am suggesting that this is an opportunity for our fisher folk to have some kind of negotiations this is business negotiations, and I'm talking about strictly commercial kind of arrangements. We cannot fish, and for those who might have ventured into Tobago's waters, we cannot do that either. But we consume X amount of fish, and therefore look to do business rather than wait for somebody else to go and do it. We sit down and we do not see opportunities, or we don't explore them. So I am saying, while you are here, for example, processors, you know, you cannot get the supplies from local suppliers. Now talk to your counterparts in Tobago, for example, and look to see how you can do that. Talk to the boat owners and commit to purchase perhaps some percentage of their catch and all kinds of things. So I'm just saying that we have to be creative in coming up with short-term solutions and solutions that will be beneficial. So government has a real role to play in accepting their part of the responsibility for some of this, because I would ask this question going back now to what happened. What would normally be, for want of a better word, the carrying capacity of the area in which these boats were docked? What were the other locations? Or was part of the problem maybe overcrowding? I don't know. But let us talk. So, and this is where, Rose, when people say that we complain, it's not about complaining, it's about dissecting issues, trying to understand them so that people will understand. You see, the problem with, and this is when people talk about politicizing, politics is about the business of the people. What I am very clear, and I use my words carefully, we on this program are not about parties and politics. Yes, I belong to a political party. I served one, and I am proud to have been asked to do it, and I did it to the best of my ability. But when I speak, it is not about parties and politics where I am just picking on another administration because I'm not part of that. It is about trying to get Barbadians to understand that we need to go beyond the superficial glossing over that we may see in a news item or hear on the radio or see on television or read in the print media, to dissect these things.
Yes.
Ultimately, to offer suggestions and solutions.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. But I would like for us to move the conversation, move to another topic, and just to conclude that there's Manasseh King is saying there are too many boats were crammed in that one area. I've spoken to people in the fishing industry, and that is what they believe to happen, that there were just too many boats crammed in the area. So that doesn't have to do with climate change. That has to do with planning and management. And we just have to, be able to call a spade a spade. We did not plan. We were focused on the cricket World Cup and the parties that followed. There was a party on Rihanna Drive that they were pushing a lot of parties after cricket parties, and there was not much preparation. If a hurricane is coming and you did not prepare for it, the chances are even greater that your house is going to be destroyed or your belongings will be destroyed. And basically, somebody dropped the ball here. Don't blame it on God, please, as Dr. Ferdinand said. And it's not all climate change. It's a lack of planning that happened. But let's conclude that area right now. Let's turn our attention to crime. And this is not cliche, or it's not. We're living, our reality in Barbados has changed as it relates to crime, as it relates to what we're seeing display even on the social media. I looked at a picture. You saw it, Dr. Ferdinand. I saw a picture, and I don't even want to put it up to glorify what I'm seeing, but it's a picture. I don't know what your thoughts are. I'm going to put it out. And so it's not, I'm not trying to glorify, but I think it's 5 young men. I sent it to you from Dave's phone, and I don't have it on mine. So if you just resend it so I can describe it. but it's of you know, ladies and gentlemen, it's of about 5 young men, and the 5 of them have guns in their hands. This is the Barbados that we are living in, and I want to say to us that are watching, some of you are from, where you live, you might not hear gunshots. It might not be something that is anywhere near your doorstep. In your mind, you're thinking this has nothing to do with me. As I said, a lot of people, middle to upper class, they have high walls, right? High walls. They have probably have their they have their their registered firearm. Okay. They don't go certain places. They drive all the time. They don't have to go to take the bus, and somehow we have our big dogs as well, lots of cameras, and we feel like, what, it's not, it's not going to touch us, and we move on. But the reality is that Barbados has changed. Do you understand what I'm telling you? This is not the same place. And I said the other night, that picture, let me say, I just look at it and describe it to them. Okay, so there are 4 young men. Could be anybody's son. I'm looking at the picture right now.
And I think the information you also indicated, Marcy, that the young man standing to the front is now dead.
Yes, the young man standing to the front, according to social media,
Yeah.
is now dead. He's now dead, wasted. He did not die fighting for the freedom like our ancestors. Bossa and all of them were trying to fight for freedom. But here are 4 black guys. I wish I could show this. I don't know. I'll send it to Dave and let him help me to decide what to do. Dave, take a look at this for me, because I want people to see. Dave, look at your WhatsApp, please. I want people to see the faces of these young men. We did not put it up. It's something that was put up by them. Okay, but, and I'm not trying to promote violence. I want us to see the gravity of the situation. The Prime Minister said that the situation of with crime in Barbados is very grave, and I agree with her on that. But when you look at these young men here in this picture, and you look at what the Prime Minister is proposing, which I think she didn't make, there wasn't much thought that went into it, because it's nothing that's comprehensive. Because what she's proposing, Ms. McLean, as far as I'm concerned, if you've seen this picture, it's just a matter of probably another couple of probably in another year, you produce another 8 of these, because she has not put forward a comprehensive plan. It's not something comprehensive that is going to deal with the social issues, and why these guys would do something like this. How do these other 3 feel right now to know this one at the front is dead? Is it that these 3 are going to try to take revenge for his death?
See, those are the kinds of questions that you ask.
Yes.
Yep.
It is really sad. I don't know if
Yep.
anybody has seen this, but these sons.
I saw that, Marcia. In fact, I saw that, and while you were searching for that, someone just sent me a video. Now, we talk about guns and the connection with drugs, and this is a video where a young man is on a stage singing, and I didn't watch it all, but he has money, and basically he is very public about drug pushing and getting money from that source, and it is at a stage where, I mean, you talk about those young men. They're not afraid to put their faces out there with weapons, with drugs, with the money that they get. And it's like, as I say, up
Miss
in
McLean,
your face.
I don't often cut you off, but I want you to, as we're here with Rose as well,
Mhm.
and everybody on there, I want us to try to get into the minds of these young men. What kind of person, what kind of person do you think would, and let's not be surface here. It's, I know it's a, let's think about it. What kind of person would stand up with a gun in their hand, right? And show their faces on social media. Take a picture and put it up on Instagram. What were the thoughts going in? It's not one person did it. You say, well, that one person then probably was on drugs. There are four handsome young men here, sturdy young men in their youth, right? What kind of thinking do you think? What do you think could be going through their head? What kind? And I'm asking the people online as well. Let's talk about it, because we really need to try to understand the psyche, understand what is going on in order, because what our prime minister has put forward. She heard the leader of the opposition talk about bail, and she said bail. Everything is about the police and this international help and so on, but nothing to deal with this breeding of this kind of behavior and this kind of young men. So let's talk about it.
Marcia,
Yes, go ahead,
Marcia.
Rose. Yeah.
Um, in my days working with youth, I received a call from a principal of a school. I called the school saying, right there in Hearts Gap, they've changed the name now. It used to be St. Matthias Primary. And I can't remember the principal's name. She died about soon after retirement. And she called me and she said, I've heard about you, Mrs. Corbin, from uh, the youth commissioner, other persons involved in working with you. And I want you to come to my school to get into the heads of some. At that time, they were in class 2. I don't think they're gone into class 3, but she was proactive.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to come. I don't want these young men to fall into lose their lives early or to be involved in crime. So I would go several. She give me not after school, the afternoon sessions at least twice a week. And I was very much involved in popular theater. So using popular theater as a tool for educating and getting participatory research information in a non-threatening manner. And I remember carrying Edwin Year's song, A Voice in My Head. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we played it and we danced and what happened. Then I halted the tape and I said, tell me what the voice in your head is telling you. Pardon me if I get emotional recalling. But I did not like what I heard from those 8 and 9 year olds. What the voice in their heads was saying. And none of them, not many of them, not at all. But I had to put my hands over their mouths and say, don't say that in public. Some of the things, I can't remember their names. I can't remember their faces. They would be about in their 20s now. But the voice in their heads was nothing like what Edwin Yearwood was singing. The voice in my head said, kill him. The voice in my head said, stab him. The voice in my head said, do drugs. I heard it myself. And I wonder what happened to some of those young men. And then when we did a session on what would you like to be when you grow up, and I heard things like sell drugs. Ma'am, my so and so selling drugs and does make money. I heard it. Nobody told me. Not only that, I showed them the Lion King. Took the Lion King movie in. The Lion King Simba was singing, and I can't wait to be king. And when I asked them, what does a king symbolize for you? What you want to be when you grow up? It was nothing noble. It was, you talk about getting, and I'm saying we can't wait to get into the heads of those who are already on the block. We can't wait to go to those that we see with the guns posing. It has the intervention. We can't wait to set up an entity in the Attorney General's office and say that this is a crime unit and we're going to allocate so many thousands of dollars and we're going to bring in former gang leaders and whatever. It is the blind leading the blind. And it is just only for a season. Her name was Mrs. Hoyt. And she called me into that school. Arthur Smith, that's the name of the school. She called me in with tears in her eyes and saying, I heard that if anybody could get to those little boys without making them feel afraid. And I remember she asked me to speak at the graduation, and I made a cake at home where I just threw everything in without measuring, just threw in the ingredients, turn up the temperature anyhow, and I carried this cake in the pan. And it was wrapped up in gift paper at the graduation at the Garrison Secondary School. And I carried the cake and I said, I've prepared a graduation cake here for you. Everybody clap. And I opened the gift wrapped cake and I said, this is the cake. And they groaned. And I asked them, it was an interactive graduation. I asked them, where did I go wrong? Why don't I have a nice cake? And those young children, I said, graduating class, I only want to hear you. They told me you didn't put in enough egg or you
Yes.
put in too much egg, and they could tell me where I went wrong.
Mhm.
And then I told them, if you don't put the right ingredients into your life, this is what could happen to you. So if you ask me, Marcia, what are they thinking? It is not what the 30-year-old is thinking now or the 20-year-old is thinking now. It starts younger. And And
Yes.
we have to make that, and we are having things like financial literacy and this next literacy, and we're getting experts coming in and talking about social and emotional intelligence, and you're doing a nice module on these things, and you think you can go in and do it. I wish that from very early, when they're looking at education reform, debunk and demystify all those fancy name programs that they're having, and
Yeah.
make early interventions into children's lives.
Yeah.
Because the voice, Marcia, you and I cannot start at this point to imagine, to perceive, or even seek to articulate what
Mm.
is going through their minds. It's
Okay.
been implanted ever
Right.
since, Marcia.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much. And as she's saying, it's important to go back when from their child. But we have the picture in front of us, so that's one concept, and it's a very important. It's very important what she's saying. But the imagery is before us, so we're just thinking at this current moment, what could they be thinking? But Rose is very, very much right in that we have to go much further and to go all the way back. Let's just, before I get to anybody else on the panel, let's just look at just some of what somewhat what our viewers are saying. Karen Williams says when she sees that picture, she says she thinks they're not thinking. That's what she thinks. Um,
Yes.
Pear says they run things. That's what they're thinking, that they run things, right? Um, and somebody else, I was trying to write. Okay, somebody says that they're emulating the American rappers, right? And somebody said the rap and dub culture is what's in their head. Tyrone said they feel invincible and they also have support, probably within law enforcement. We don't know. He's saying they may have. They may have. It's not. We don't know. That's what he's thinking. It's his opinion. They may have support. Um, and Teronial says what is going through the young man's head is that the system don't care about them. So it's about survival. And I tend to see that on it because it's almost like they're in a war. When you look at the picture, it seems like it's like, you're going to war. It's like a survival kind of a thing as well going on there. Speak the truth says when the mix of drugs and alcohol get in the head, it's trouble. So I guess you're saying, speak the truth, that is what's going on in the head full of drugs and alcohol. I'm trying to read those that post, to get you all in the conversation because, Miss McLean and everybody else is much more than us here. It's all of us that will have to come up. Let me read this one from Ramim and then I go to one of the panelists. Ramim was saying, listen, they sit on the block as children all 10 o'clock at night and can't function at school. It's very similar to what Rose is saying. They learn from early that flashy items and money are it. They glorify drug life and um jail. Okay. All right. I think that's what she's saying. So we are, I think we've got to discuss it and to, as Miss McLean said, and to dissect it. Let me hear from Dr. Ferdinand. You saw that picture. What do you think is going through in the minds of these people, these four guys? I said five guys, but they're really four, right?
Well, Marcia, as I look at these young men, to be very honest, I see almost a sense of I don't want to say a sense of hopelessness, but a sense of a lack of provision. It's almost as if they have to fight for their own existence rather than opportunities being given to them or being provided for them to be able to earn, a legitimate type of life. To be honest with you, it is a very complex and complicated response that one has to engage, because as Rose says, and as the Jesuits say, give us a child for the first 7 years and we will show you the man. So the family unit is critically important in the developmental aspect of any child's life. One has to look at how those young men were raised in their early days. What were they exposed to? And then, Marcia, that brings us to the whole aspect of what I call the US culture that's promoted through movies, through music, through television. Every time you turn on a television show today, it's crime and violence, shooting, and we see a lot of this being played out within the context of the US culture. But then you add to that, Marcia, the development of children as they're growing up, where their parents are pursuing what I call quick money to get material things. It seems as if everybody is fixated on materialism. So the young people see, okay, how can I get the money to get my materialism fastest? And, I was told many years ago that the lifespan of young men in Florida, in Miami particularly, from the time they enter the drug culture onto the time they die is 5 years. 5 years. You enter into the drug culture at any stage, whether it be in the purchasing or promoting and selling of drugs, 5 years of a lifespan. And very often, what I have read from the information that I have received from the police departments and so on, many of the people in higher offices of the country, or should I say, in the more wealthy environments of the country, are the people who really are the promoters and providers of drugs and guns and the not. I mean, look at these young men. Let's be serious, Marcia. Where are they going to get the money from to purchase those weapons? And where are they going to get the access to the weapons to purchase them? They don't just drop out of the sky. They don't just emerge from a chicken egg or something of the sort. They have to be made available in the country. And the question is then asked, how are they entering the country? Who is dropping the ball? Where is it happening? I don't want to cast aspirations on our customs and immigration department, but the question has to be asked. Are they accessing the country through private vessels that are coming in on our coast that the Coast Guard are not detecting? Are they coming in containers? Are they coming in shipping containers, or in barrels or boxes or whatever? And if they are, how are they getting through our port without being discovered? I watched a documentary recently to see how in the United States there is equipment that can scan a container without you opening the door, and they will tell you every single thing in that container. Do we have that equipment available to us here in Barbados? And if we have it available to us in Barbados, who are the persons who are identifying that? Are they being bought out? Are they being threatened? I think we know, Marcia, from our own experiences in terms of the information available to us, that when you're dealing with drug cartels, it can be a very horrendous experience. They threaten your family, they threaten your children, they threaten your friends, and so there's an element of fear that's now brought within the
Yeah.
context of that kind of thing. So I think it's a very complex engagement, and I
Yes.
personally believe that the leader of the opposition's suggestion of doing what is a commission through the country where we can
Yes.
engage people, I think is the beginning process.
Yes. I think you use a word there, Dr. Ferdinand, complex. And that's not the kind of response that we got from our prime minister. We got the obvious response, which is to be, we're gonna be punitive. We're gonna get more police, and we're going to lock you up. It's the obvious things, but it wasn't. It's not something that was. It wasn't complex at all. It was not comprehensive.
It's
Is what
it's
I'm
not
trying to
treating
say.
it's not treating to the source. What is the how are we going to drill down, Marcia, to
Yeah.
the source of the problem
Yeah,
until
but but
we
but
address
that,
it?
that is
You
that
know,
is what I wanted. Why I'm looking at a picture, and I guess because I'm an artist is why I'm doing it this way, Miss McLean. Because I like to. It's like literature, or art. You see a picture, and to try to analyze the picture, because I think unless we start to do that kind of thing, then we've got to get in their skin and try to understand. Look at what they have around them. We see the banks there, we see all the things that's in the picture. For those of you who can't see the picture, Miss McLean, looking at this picture, what do you think is going on in the minds of these very handsome young men that we're looking at here?
I think basically it is thumbing their noses at what they consider to be the system. In other words, we don't give a damn about you because you do not care about us.
Ah,
And it leads me to act to I as I listened, I
repeat that.
started
We don't give a damn about you
because
because you
because
don't
you
give a
don't
damn
care about
about us.
us. And it's I mean, as a young university student, we did sociology and they talked about alienation. That's what it is, that the society, for some reason, as far as they're concerned, it has not been good to them. It has not done right by them. And they may not analyze it in the same way. Well, and I think they analyze it in their own way. So in other words, I get up on mornings. I don't have a comfortable bed to sleep in, or I may not have a bed to sleep in. I go to school hungry. A teacher looks at me and figures Jane or John does not look very tidy, and rather than probably reach out to understand it, they physically or mentally put them in a corner and ignore them. They don't analyze, So the thing I ask is, what is the situation of these young men now and over their life? Who are their role models? In essence, who are they mimicking? What
Mm-hmm.
are they witnessing or experiencing on a daily basis? And that's why I talk about what are they exposed, and that whole notion of alienation.
Mm.
So in essence, and to repeat, the system is uncaring, and therefore I have nothing to lose because I have nothing.
Mm.
But I am living in a materialistic world, and I want what the guy that's driving
Exactly.
the
The
Volvo,
BMW
BMW,
yeah, yeah.
SUV, or the whatever, and who can go to the parties and pay $1,000 a night
With
for,
all
for
the girls
for
and all of
special,
that.
and these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Now I remember, and as you were, so the critical thing is, how do we counter, and when do we start to counter? Because, and you were correct, any solution has to be short, medium, and long term. It has to be preventative, as we've heard, but you also have to deal with the consequences of these things. I remember some years ago, an Anglican priest said to me he was the most shocked person when he moved from a rural church to an urban church, and said, I have to find ways to get these children away from home.
Mm-hmm.
So in the summer vacation, he said, I was shocked. The things that I heard these children talking about, the experiences, as I observed what was happening in the community around the church. So I think at the end of the day, what has to happen is that how do we deal with these? If a child grows up seeing somebody smoking and selling drugs, as opposed to a person who's working as a gas station attendant and or a security guard and getting minimum wages, when they can, in fact, I mean, and we are talking about the guys and the guns, but I will say this because this is a very real situation, because I've had to deal with it with somebody who was very pressured. You have teenage girls prostituting themselves, you know and connecting themselves with some of, and that's why, for example, there's an image here, and you see what he has around his neck: gold, which is supposed to symbolize, they would know the kind of prices that they pay. But this is it. So when you talk about what is in their head, and the other question that I would ask, for many of them, they will ask, what realistically are my other options?
Options, yeah. Mm.
Yes, yes, yes.
What are my other options? I was at school. And if I'm hungry, I can't study well. Nobody diagnosed that I was dyslexic. Nobody diagnosed that I had a vision problem, or I came to school hungry. I came to school after being abused by a neighbor, a step parent, or whatever. I mean, so all of these are things that children probably live with, and then they rebel. And I think part of it is, as I said, because of the alienation, you rebel. And you rebel in a way that says, okay, you may not think much of what I'm doing, but I got money. I can access a big gun, you know?
Yeah. Thank you, Miss McLean. Thank you, panel. And I'm reading also, I don't know if Dr. Ferdinand is reading some of the comments. I see Dave wrote there, look into his face. What do you see? And, Rose, in literature class, this is the kind of thing they would give you a picture and you look and you see all the things. Look at this picture that we see of this man, this young man. I know it's not class, but I can't. As an artist, I can't help but look at all that I'm seeing. Everybody, look at all you're seeing in this picture. Number one, it tells me that his in terms of his background, it's not a wealthy person. Where he lives does not seem very well off. That's what the picture tells me. Okay, if I'm wrong, everybody's seen something else. So it tells me it's not where he lives. He's trying. He's trying. I see him. He's trying. There's a flat screen TV there, but look at the furniture. The type of furniture is telling me something. Okay, so he wants to. He's trying to pull himself up, but he's in his surroundings are not the best. Look. Don't you see a baby picture there or
Yes,
baby?
He's probably a father.
Marcia, I was just about to point that out to you, because in this picture, yes, these pictures of the baby on the wardrobe behind him, and it's almost as if he's trying to say, I'm trying to make a living for my family, for my children,
Mm.
and that's the first thing that caught my attention
Oh
in the
wow.
picture,
Okay, it's
actually.
good to hear from a male.
That's the
It's
first
yeah.
thing.
Wow, somebody said something here, and this is a kind of thing, and I don't want to cry on the show, and the reason I do this way, guys, is because I've told you that I've lived in these kinds of situations, and oftentimes, we think we know them. You understand? We think we know them, Rose. We think we know them, Miss McLean. Dr. Furdy, we think we know them. We make assumptions, which I'm not saying any of us here that's doing that. But I want to make them human. I want them to be human. Simone says, I see hope. I see pictures of his children. Perhaps his source of inspiration in life and for making his livelihood. And we might not agree with his livelihood, but Miss McLean has just outlined and Rose outlined as what's in their heads, and so their livelihood to them, it seems like it's normal and it's this thing, but this is a guy that has hope and he has pictures of his children.
But Marcia, the
Yeah.
question then is, what happens to the children? He was a child like that once. And
Yes.
this is the concern that I have. What kinds of interventions can we as a country, as a people, as a community make? Because basically he was an innocent little boy once, and you see, the other thing is, if the quote unquote system, I use the word system, the society does not allow me to, because he has notions of, or a young man or young woman in that situation would have notions of what they want for their child or children. And I think the frustration and the anger will build up when you cannot see yourself being able to provide. Now, it is, and so in essence, there's a cycle that has to be broken.
Yes.
And how can we get that done?
Yeah.
But in all of this, we are losing our young men.
Yeah. You know,
Um,
Rose, I hear, Rose, you can jump in there. I just want us to, I want us to see them, Dr. Ferdinand and Rose and everybody, as human beings, as real people. And that's what, Rose, you painted for us about those little children. You took us back to them as little children. Because until we see them, we start to humanize them. We're not, I personally think, this is me, I'm not a sociologist or anything. I believe that we're not going to be able to help them. We're not going to
um,
be able to do anything unless we see them as people. Go ahead, jump in, Rose. I'm sorry.
that's why I'm listening to you and lots of things are going through my head. Up to last year, 2023, 2022, 2021, I had the privilege of working with some young people in the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps. I must say that there are interventions. There are interventions, um, programs, various programs within the Ministry of Youth. We have the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. We have the YDP Youth Development Program. I'm not saying that efforts are not being made. There are NGOs that out there, community-based organizations, even the church. My thing is, and working with these young people, school leavers up until about age 21 or so, they they they're playing mind games with us. Some of these young people play games with us, and I think that from my experience and conversation with them, they look for persons to blame, the system to blame, even those who have come from good homes, what we call good homes, Marcia. There is this blaming. Um, some don't want responsibilities for their actions and consequences. Never in the time, and I'm going back to my time, call me archaic dinosaur. Uh, so you have to call Maxine that and Pastor Ferdy that too. But never in my time, or I have never seen such a proliferation of information given to young people in terms of planning for life, planning for your future. There is a resentment that exists out there, and all I can think of, and I'm getting a little bit spiritual here, in Jeremiah 31, 29 to 30, it reads, "In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. And but everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man who eats the sour grapes, his teeth shall be set on edge. And I am trying to trace. When I heard last week of all these deaths, I sat with my husband and I said, can we trace when all this began? These are young people in their 30s. The oldest we've got, say, a 40-year-old. Where did it all begin? And I'm saying some of the mothers are quite young. So some of these mothers would be, say, let's say, in their 20s or teens. What kind of culture did they grow up on? Where did the block culture begin? Where did the nasty music on the ZR bands begin? Where did this open um, objection, this open disrespect for law, for the police begin? Where did this the conscious lyrics begin and the smoking of the split as you engage into conscious lyrics? Where did all the reggae festivals begin? Where did this generation who raised these young men, where did it begin for them? Can we trace the time when this all began? It had to begin somewhere, not now. And I'm saying, who raised them? What were, who are their parents? What did their parents experience? These young men just drop here as 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. Somebody who is at least 20 years older than them raised them. Where did it begin? It began with this generation is not the lost generation, you know. The generation that I would say it's a lost generation is the generation that raised them. I see these young men every day. I have gone on the block and I've sat with them. I know them, we've humanized them. But in a sense, too, we have created a mendicant environment. We have taken away from them the responsibility that they should have and internalize for the consequences of their actions. These young people, I know, I have been with them. And I think probably because of my gray hair, I think because I am not as young as their parents, they open up and share with us. And many of them are have an unwillingness to accept their wrongdoing. And I too that we encourage it when we also say, look, the system is not providing work for you. There are opportunities for skill training. This is one time I'm going to say there are opportunities out there for
You know,
skills training.
Rose, I honestly, I think, I think generally there are opportunities out there because as you're talking, I'm really thinking, um, about just even just one young man that I know there, and I agree with you that generally there are opportunities out there. But even the skills program, I know that I don't know there was a time when it was it was very well run and people could get in it and so on. I know this young man has been trying, and I can't say all the issues surrounding it, but one of the challenges that we have is that well, there are a lot of our young, I know people are going to say it's an excuse, but when you cannot read, we're talking about opportunities, right, Dr. Ferdinand? But when you cannot read, when you have a learning disability, when you have a situation where you've never slept on a bed, all you've slept on is a floor, all you've been told is that you will never come out to anything, all you've received from your parents is beating, when you've never received a kind word from them, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to say that, to talk about opportunities. There are opportunities there, but then it becomes limited for people who are not prepared for the world, or people who are not prepared to live in this life. Because when some of these children, they grow up without, it's almost like they grow up like a tree then, like a just a weed, a weed that's not marijuana weed, but a weed that is just growing. If the rain fall on it, it fall on it. If the sun hit it, it hit it. So I would coach that in talking about the opportunities. I don't know. I don't know, Miss McLean, if you want to jump in there on that.
No, I think you're correct, because when I asked about what is the situation of some of these young people, you painted the picture correctly. There's so many negatives that, and then to compound it, as you said, I mean, some people may have the opposite effect where you're not gonna amount to anything. You're just as bad as this body, the next, or whatever, and over time that just destroys the spirit. I would say almost destroys the soul of the child. Compound that with the disparities that you see between the haves and the have-nots, and
No,
the way some people behave towards you, you know whether it's teachers, whether it's the parents of some of your children, your neighbors, you go to get a job, and I mean, so in essence, the whole experience alienates, and that's the word I used before, the person from that. They don't see a change. I mean, it takes a lot to fight that, and I listened to I couldn't listen to the program live on Friday, but I listened to it, well, the early hours of this morning, because it was after 2 o'clock that I sat and listened to it. And you go back to talking about you see, you were speaking to, if and I made the connection, in a lot of African countries, there are rites of passage for men, for girls and boys. In other words, when you heard "I'm not afraid of lions," that doesn't just happen by chance. They're probably exercises, activities that a young man is taken through to help him build that. The question is, who helps many of these children, in the case of the boys, to become men, to understand what it is to be a man? So in essence, if your self-esteem is low, and because there's this whole thing about somebody disrespecting another, and that is cause for drawing a gun and whatever else. And the question is, why does that happen? Because for some reason, that person's self-esteem, image of self, is not positive, and they don't know how to navigate those kinds of things. And so it's about the situation where our children's socialization in the home, in the communities, what they're exposed to, what the opportunities that they do not get, and all of these things builds up a set of attitudes and values which are antisocial.
correct.
And so that the antisocial behavior is their way of saying, look, y'all didn't deal with me a certain way, y'all need to deal with me this way now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you remember, and I'll say this and stop, you remember the image of the two youngsters who tried to hold up the minibus guy, the ZR fella, and when he started to move the vehicle, and one started to cry and call for his mother, because all of a sudden, this young gangster, as he might have seen himself, who wanted to rob this ZR driver, was was no longer in control. So he, the bravado and all of that he had evaporated.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to a police officer and let them tell you what happens when some of these youngsters are separated from the others and probably put in a holding cell. They start crying for their mothers,
Right.
and so what you're really seeing is that this bravado, this macho, mean, evil, screw face, whatever. Look at how he has his lips pursed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that may be part of the natural shape of it, but it's also a way of, of setting your face to look mean or whatever. And all of that evaporates, and they become the little boys that miss their mothers
Yeah.
or want their fathers.
Miss McLean, you hear how you're looking at this picture, and this is because sometimes this young man, he's lost his life. He was killed just after last week Tuesday or so. He died, and I think one of the things that I want to do at the roadside parliament is to have the names of the young men who have died in this
Right,
way,
right.
and that's part of us humanizing them, because some people, we make a lot of judgments about them, whether the judgments are right or not. Some people, it's almost like for them it's animals killing themselves. They're all killing themselves, they're animals, and so on. And I think that, as upsetting as it is for some people to look at the picture, I think that it is important that we look at the pictures. Not that,
We're
we
not
are
sensationalizing
we're not
anything.
sensationalizing it. We are examining the picture and to try to understand the situation. So it's not. It is a picture that was put up on his Facebook page. He's no longer with us, and we're looking into the eyes of this person that is not no longer here. And I think that is, it is important that we do that. Okay. Now, it's, we can always move on, but
I just want to raise one point, Marcia, in,
yes,
in,
and
in
then
relation to
after your
this.
point,
Yes,
then I will remove it.
because
Yes, go ahead.
yesterday I was trying to find a friend of mine to ask her to do something for my niece for
Mm-hmm,
a little while, and my niece wasn't connecting. When I finally got her, she apologized.
mm-hmm.
And she said to me, we have had some challenging things in my family. And
Yeah.
I'll summarize it by saying that some of these victims are innocent. Her cousin was killed, and he
Mm-hmm,
wasn't a quarter bad boy. He happened to have left home, say, I'm going to visit some friends,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and got caught in a barrage of fire. His cell phone dropped, and he stopped to pick it up where the other guys
mm-hmm,
ran away, and he got
mm-hmm,
killed. He was not even from the neighborhood.
mm-hmm.
But she said her mother has been devastated by it. But you see what you said about people behaving as if they're animals? A
Correct.
comment made, I think well, I will say a comment, I think it was a comment made by the prime minister. She said that thing just totally offset my mother again,
Yeah.
because you see, because there was a lack of appreciation that every victim is not a quote bad boy. And here it is, you're grieving the fact that in all the violence that is taking place, this young man happened to be in the wrong place at a given point in time and lost his life. And he's not the only one. So that's the other consequence of this as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so when as you said, when people see images and they pass these things around, and I just want to end by beseeching people, please do not share images of young men who have just lost their lives with blood flowing and so on. It is the most gruesome thing, because you don't know who will get it before even hearing, and maybe recognize a relative before
Mm-hmm.
even getting a proper warning of what they might be seeing, because people do this. And I just say to people, to me, it is almost as though we have become so callous that, as you say, we're not seeing the child, the young man, or whatever.
Yes. Well,
Marcia,
Uh,
may I
you know,
uh,
I want to. Sorry.
hold a minute. Hold a minute. Guys, everybody's speaking at the same time. One
Yeah,
second.
sorry. Permit me to jump in for a minute, Marcia. Um,
Uh-huh.
I am a grandfather, and I observe the behavior of my granddaughter over the last several days, and I had to recognize that she mimics what she has seen others doing as a child. And I believe, remember, I said that this whole matter is very complex. Children are like sponges, they absorb what they see. Children, as a matter of fact, I went and found the lyrics. I don't know if you all remember that. I think it was a song that says, if a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If he lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If he lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. If he lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If he lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. If he lives with praise, he learns appreciation. If he lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns to live with faith. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in the world. I'm really concerned as to the examples, Marcia, that many of us as authority figures set for our young people. I don't believe that when members of parliament are in parliament, that they remember or realize that the parliament debates are being aired on television and being aired over social media, over YouTube and over Facebook. And when you see the conduct, when you see the antagonism and aggression of individuals in parliament, as a government, as the leadership of the country, pray tell, what should we expect from our young people? That is the example that the authorities are setting. And when I say that, I'm not just going to be blaming government. I recognize that even as a father, our children mimic our conduct. As a parent, they mimic our conduct. And I remember many years ago, Marcia, there was a show we used to have on cable TV. I can't remember what they call the TV now. We have those funny antennas. It was a show called 60 Minutes. And they were doing a documentary of men on death row. And when they began to question them concerning their family, their upbringing, and their mother, there was a continuous beeping. And you know what beeping means on television when they were asked about their mother. And the fundamental conclusion was, if my mother had taught me about this earlier, I may not be here today. And I think I'm not putting the blame solely on mothers. Let me address parents. Parents need to stop dropping their children off for somebody else to look after them. And they need to start to invest in their own children. This is where the whole matter begins. And then it begins to become complicated when
Yes.
that child gets into primary school. And when do you know what's going to happen now when these children who have just completed their what we used to call the screaming test
Mm-hmm.
are now going into secondary school where there
Mm-hmm.
is no
Dr.
protection like what
Ferdinand,
they
just another minute because we're
yeah
down to, yeah, we're
yeah
coming
just
down.
they're
Yeah.
going
No,
into
no, but no,
secondary
go
school.
ahead. Just another minute and
Yeah,
wrap
that's
it.
fine. They're going into secondary school where all that protection mechanism that they experience in primary school is removed. And now the only thing they have to depend upon is what they have been taught in their homes. And to me, while the whole process in the future is complex, it begins in the house, in the
Yes.
household.
Thank you, Dr. Ferdinand. And over to Mrs. Corbin. We have it's
942.
9:43, and we kind of have to also push for the what you call it, the relief efforts as well.
Yes.
So let's just try to wrap up this section. Yes, go ahead, Mrs.
Yes,
Corbin.
very quickly, and Maxine, again, you triggered that mm, thought I had on stereotyping, that every bad boy, or the only bad boy, is not a screw face looking bad boy. We've got some very, again, my experience, some very nice young men and women who come from nice homes, but who have a way of concealing it, whose parents also have a way of pulling strings to keep them away from the lens, away from the social media. So we just can't just stereotype the ones we see with the ones we see. So we need to look beyond those and look for those who are more subvert and more covert with their actions. These sometimes are the ones who are behind the ones that we see out there who would take the risk. Now, another thing that concerns me is this gender violence moves, it's creeping into amongst the young women. Did you see that violent
Yes.
stabbing in Kentucky?
Yes.
I know that girls are being used, and we know that as mules, not only international mules, but right here there are girls who are being used as mules. We saw the case where that young girl drove the getaway car
Mm-hmm.
when there was a shooting at Sheraton.
Right. It was. Yeah. We have to say allegation. It was alleged.
Allegations,
Yes.
right?
Alleged that
Alleged.
she.
And so we have to consider violent behavior that is creeping up amongst and between women, young girls. They are fearless. If you look at the videos at schools on social
Yes.
media,
Yes.
it is usually the girls who are fighting tooth for tooth and nail for nail. There's this recklessness. So when we're doing our intervention, we can't just stereotype the screw face boy, but we have also to look for the screw face girl or the non screw face girl and boy or young man. And on another note, I saw on a social media, Facebook, Barbados, or something. What should Barbados stop importing? And people were saying, saying, stop importing this and that. But one of the things I noticed that cropped up multiple times, guns, guns. And somebody said guns are not imported, were smuggled. And I laughed and I said, but there must be an importer or a need that they should be smuggled in. So again, it is not just these programs and Pastor Ferdinand looked at it. What is causing the root behind it? But one of the things I'm saying, we need also to start that intervention. If the home is not doing it and the parents are not taking or sending the children to church, the school and education reform close behind or integral to the reading, writing, and arithmetic. We must look at that component, and there are no fancy name about what you call it, civics or anything, or just getting back to the basics of behaving and values, and that's it. So I just want us to encourage ourselves here and see how we can influence early intervention and to see a reduction in what is happening out there. Pray to God that this week does not bring
Another.
any more of those occurrences. Let's
Yeah.
pray.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Rose. That the early intervention, as you're saying, is so crucial. So crucial. We hear that came out a lot tonight. Family, um, going back to the family, to humanize the young men, to see them as people. I think that is another thing that came out very, very strongly in this discussion. And thanks to everybody um, the viewers who participated. I learned a lot from you guys too. I was literally writing down some of your comments, because what happens is that when the show is finished, those comments are gone. And so
Yeah,
I
that's right.
literally, yeah, I was just writing down some of the thoughts that you had there. So you played a very, very important role tonight, and trust me, I'll be using them. Okay, I'll be using some of what you wrote. Um, I just want to there's just one last thing. Somebody asked me to put it up, and I'm not going to spend long on it. I can't. Dave, I sent you a graph, and if you could put that up while he's Dave, you could put that up while he's doing that. I want to say that we have to continue the relief efforts. Okay, the relief efforts for those who were um, in the other islands, who homes were devastated, were destroyed actually, by BERYL. A lot of them, their homes, you look at places, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Carriacou, and so on. It's really horrible. And so someone sent me a message today, and they're saying that the BDF is going to right, one of the drop-off points. Excuse me, just making sure I get the correct information. One of the drop-off points for the relief supplies will be at the BDF. Okay, so you can call the Barbados Defense Force, and it says, "Good morning. There's a major request of canned food, etc. They have a lot of water, but food supplies are limited. They're lighting fires to stay warm and for cooking, because they don't have shelter. These A lot of people are still stranded in Carriacou and some of these other islands, and so the BDF is stepping up. And if you have food supplies, that canned foods that you can give to the BDF, they will get it to the persons who need it. Okay, so they're asking for food. They have a lot of water, they said, but they need food to right. So I think that very, very important, and we're going to keep doing that on the show. um the next thing I want to say is that we're going to continue our roadside parliaments that we've been doing. We, because of BERYL, we were not able to have the last one in June, but we are seeking to get it rescheduled for this weekend coming up. And it's important for us to continue what we were doing. It was going to be on the issue of gun violence in Barbados, and so we're going to continue that. We have some placards with the names of the those who who died as a result of violence in Barbados, and we will tell you more by tomorrow on exactly what is going to be done with that. We want to incorporate a walk, like a solemn walk, from one of these spots, whether it's Britain's Hill, along with the police, and we walk. It's a symbolic, it's a prayerful walk. It is saying, I see you, I understand, I'm here. And I'm seeking to understand. I acknowledge, I am aware. is what that solemn walk is going to say. We will do up a flyer, and you can, you'll be able to know about it. The idea is we're going to end up at Hastings Rock. All right, we're going to end up at Hastings Rock, where we will do our roadside parliament and continue with these discussions. I think the discussions are important, and so you're going to hear more about that. Now, this someone I saw people today, and they said to me, Marcia, can we see some kind of graph? Or you said that in 2019 that the homicide rate that went up by 71.92%. Now, what this is a graph, and so if you look at 2019, I don't know if Dave can write. If you look, you see the spike there at 2019. Okay, you see the spike at 2019, and that is what is. I don't have the rest of it, which you can't see. Says that the increase is by 71.92%. So that spike is what that represents. If you notice, after 2019, it starts to decrease, and it goes all the way down. You see that, right? And that is during the COVID time, Dr. Ferdinand. Okay, so the graph is not wrong. All right, it's telling us what happened. But then, as soon as we came out of the COVID, if you look, it goes all the way up. And remember, I told you that it shot up to 94.12% in 2022. Notice that it even goes up above what it was in 2019, right? It goes up, and I mean, we don't see the rest of it because they don't have that data. They don't have 2023, and they don't have 2024, and so this is what I was referring to, and I promised people that I would show it on the platform, because I was alarmed by it, because I guess seeing it in picture form and in numbers, you see the big jump that started to occur after 2018. And so people wanted me to show that, and they said, you have to show it to us. So I wanted to show you this graph, and it is from Knoema.net, Knoema.net, and you can go and do your own research, please, okay? Just in case you think that I'm making it up, all right? Knoema.net, there's a K missing from there, all right? Okay. I just wanted to say that. I want us to be hopeful. I want us to leave this program hopeful. I want us to leave this program hopeful that sometimes, you wonder, will it make a difference? If you can make a difference in one person's life, it's worth it. Ms. McLean, in one person's life, it's worth it. It doesn't matter, because sometimes we look at the picture, and we look at the situation, and we see, wow, four guys who died in 5 days or something like that, and it can be very daunting. But if we can help one young person at a time, it's worth it. It's very much worth it. We have half a minute for each panelist. Can we do it in half a minute? These are all people who are very, very big talkers. So let's see if we can do that in half a minute. Can we say, leave something hopeful? Because it was a little heavy. Well, for me it was. If anybody, it's something just a little hopeful that we can say before we go tonight. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first. I'll start quickly with what you said about helping somebody. And my experience is, if we can identify and assist one young person who is in a difficult situation, to help them to understand that life can be, that support can change their life. I have seen it personally. And I just want to quickly refer to something. I think the person was Imperator, talking about the role of the father. And as the mother of a son, I want to say that when my son was a little boy, I was told by his father, you may be able to tell him the kind of man you would like him to be as a woman, but I have to teach him to be a father. And I say to to parents who are single parents, and even a woman can be a single woman, but that does not make her a single parent. A man can be a single man, but that does not necessarily make him or should not make him a single parent. It takes two, and whatever your circumstance, assume responsibility for socializing your children and setting positive examples for them. That is part of the challenge. We have too many absent or bad role models for our children, and it has dire consequences.
Yes. Thank you, Miss McLean. Rose?
Sorry about that. I'm not seeing again. I'm coming on. You've been just triggering it. When Marcia asks, what can we do, in terms of hope, I recall Auntie Olga on Sunday evening would start and end her program with, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, um, then my living will not be in vain. And this week, I want us to, as you say, Maxine, take the opportunity, all of us, myself, to help somebody with a word. We can't sing like Ferdy, but if we can just help somebody, our living will not be in vain, and that person's life
Somebody
can be saved.
as I pass
Mhm.
along.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Rose. Okay, over to you, Pastor Ferdinand. It's 10 o'clock.
Many years ago, Marcia, when we returned to Barbados, we had some gang members in our home, and we asked the leader of that gang, what did he feel was the greatest need of our youth? I was stunned at his response. He said, God. And when he said God, I asked him, why God? He said, because if it is not for God, as young people, we will self destruct. And I want to say that there is hope. There's hope because God's design in every human individual, especially our young people, is for a purpose and a plan for their lives. He has a plan for them. And I want to encourage us to stand with our young people and let's try to give them faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so I believe that this is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to people, a hope, a future, things that they can hold on to. And it all begins really in truth and in fact by faith, because everything in life begins with a thought. Everything begins with a thought. And if that thought can be directed to the very strength of the human individual, the human soul, then I think our young people will be fine. And that strength is found in one person alone, and that is in Jesus Christ. So I want to thank you for the chance to share with you tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Ferdinand. Thank you, everyone, for your input tonight. The panelists, Mrs. Corbin, Ms. McLean, Dr. Ferdinand, and for everybody, all the viewers. I mean,
Every
people were
viewers,
all
yeah.
involved tonight. They were involved
Yes.
all the way in, and I think that is the kind of show that we need to have. I love it when it's like that. We get them involved, you
Yes.
know. And as I said, we have a lot of notes, and hopefully we can come back and look at this segment of the show and see what we can all learn from it. All right. So we've started on our roadside parliament very early. So we will have continue our discussion, our family discussion, right there at Hastings Rock next week Sunday. Right, next week Sunday we will continue this conversation at Hastings Rock. We're going to give you details on where we're going to do our solemn walk from. All right, that leads right up to Hastings Rock. But once again, thank you so much, Dr. Ferdinand, for starting with such a bang. You were so amazing at the beginning of this program. Thank you. We really appreciate it, and a fantastic panel. Good night, everybody. Sleep well. And let's have our songs. We go off. At least we can smile.
Well, I tell you, if you didn't call for that to sing, if you didn't
No,
call
go
for that
ahead,
song,
Dave.
I was just about to sing. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that he's traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Then we can play the song. Ah, don't let me rob you of that wonderful end.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Dave, please.
Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. Barbados is too small for me. My pocket full now, you and job they promise me. And a girl like me, want power and more money. You cry transparency, but that's a no for me. Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down.
That mass nor English, English. Pretending to be good, I pretending to be good, just pretending to be good. I pretending to be good, I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending, and I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night. Good
Have a
night,
good
everyone.
night. God bless you
God
all.
bless.
Bye bye.